Hello, this is Zoe and Emmy's podcast. This is season 2, Freedom of Speech, and this is episode 1, England. And we're here with a special guest, Sol.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
Great. So we're just going to get his intel because we've done the research and he hasn't.
He's done a little bit, but he's not as
Yeah,
overall as
we know what we're talking about, you
Coming
don't.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd start with England because
Yeah.
we live here.
We do.
So before we get into the facts and figures, what do we think? Before I researched, I thought we were quite well spoken.
Yeah.
Like we're very
We're,
I can say what I want to say,
yeah.
and
If
no
I have
one's
an
gonna say
opinion, I
anything.
can say it.
Yeah,
basically,
100%.
To a certain extent.
But like in the movie, the thing I was thinking about is in the movies, America, for us, America is always like, oh, they have more rights, they have more freedom and
They're
everything.
always on about it.
That's what they
always on
say.
about it. Yeah.
Mm.
I live in a free country.
Yes, free country. That's always what they say.
Literally.
Yeah, and I felt like that was really interesting.
Yeah. And also the definition of
Oh yeah,
freedom of
which
speech,
is
which is freedom to hold opinions and to receive I can't speak.
and
Sorry.
impart information and ideas without inference by a public authority or regardless of frontiers.
Yeah.
Which basically means freedom to say what you like and someone's going to listen to you.
Yeah.
I feel like you don't really have the option not to listen.
Yeah.
Like if you're there, you're gonna hear
I
it.
feel like that's kind of what Elon Musk has done to Twitter now.
Yeah.
So you can't get banned anymore. You can say what you want.
Yeah. It's making it a lot harder to take away that freedom. When before it was easy to dismiss someone's views and you could go, I don't want to listen to this, I don't agree with it. And now, like you're saying, like you can not listen, but it's always there for you to hear if you want to.
Yeah. And I feel like words is our way of communicating with people.
Yeah.
If we can't communicate with people, we're not going to survive. Like
Yeah.
that's how the world works.
Zero
And I feel like
zero improvement.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I feel like if we don't we use communication all the time. And so how do you limit that communication without making people feel like they are not available to be free within themselves?
Yeah, and that's what the British government has tried to do. So they have like the Section 4 of the Public Order Act of
1986, yeah.
Which makes it an offence for a person to use threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour that causes or is likely to cause another person harassment, alarm or distress.
Can we talk about that bit for a second?
Yeah.
Because like something that will be like offensive to me may not be offensive to like you, Sol. And so how do you find that? How do you find that in between? How do you find that line?
Yeah.
And so
What's classed as threatening and abusive?
yeah, because something that might be for me is definitely not for you. Like you
There's
never
no
know.
line for it.
Yeah, there's not a rule book.
And I feel like this is why we need to talk about it because how do we solve this issue? How do we solve this problem?
Yeah. And I think that causing another person harassment and alarm and distress, you know when you're doing that.
Yeah.
You know
But
if you've broken into someone's house, you're
They're
causing
going to
them alarm.
react once you've said something though.
Yeah. And
Which is the problem.
No matter what you say, I could say, oh, I don't like you. And you could say that's insulting. But that's not going against my freedom of speech.
Yes.
So at what point is it insulting to the point where it's illegal?
Yeah. And I feel like, so what was the characteristics that are protected by the Act is age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage or civil partnerships, pregnancy, maternity, race, religion or belief, sex, and sexual orientation.
Which is in the Equality Act of 2010, which literally means that you can't be like discriminated against based on those things. So if someone said something racist or homophobic, that would go against the freedom of speech and that right's being taken advantage
illegal.
of. It's illegal.
And
Yeah.
I 100% would agree with every
Yeah.
single one of those things. I think if anyone says anything bad or like they like insult anything to do with the list that we've just mentioned, it's a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, not only is that like morally horrible, it's legally horrible now. So
Yeah,
it's a
and
law
that-
which I think is good.
That's a good thing, but that also doesn't stop people from doing it.
Yeah. And the thing is, no one really does it off the bat, so you'll do it once and then you won't do it again.
Yeah.
It is put into your vocabulary.
Yeah.
And so how do you either teach that out of someone's vocabulary or just teach them so it's never put in the first place?
Yeah. If someone believes that something is that being gay is wrong, for example, then they're going to push that belief. Because it's what they believe is right.
Yeah.
And they aren't going to care that it's illegal.
I think that education has done a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because you see, like, older people, they do tend to be, they're more racist, they're more homophobic.
Yes.
They discriminate a lot more. And you do see younger people that are a lot more accepting with almost everything.
I mean, that's probably something to do with the fact that the Act was only brought in 2010.
Yeah.
So,
And it's like people's experiences as well.
Yeah.
But
But there's other categories as well. So there's categories of speech that fall into the protection as well are obscenity, child pornography, defamation, incitement of violence, and true threats of violence. So and that's a lot more like you can't do it. It's not broad like, oh, you can't say something about someone's religion.
they're also quite like deferred, like there is a line.
Yes.
And you can see that line.
Yeah, and it's if you cross it knowing that it's wrong.
Yes.
It's not like you've said your opinion as such.
And like to me, my opinion on this is that should be illegal. Like it shouldn't even be thought about, like any of those.
Yeah.
But it should be illegal, not in just England, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not.
No.
And that's the biggest problem.
I think England as a country is very free.
Yeah. And I think, like, I get it, like, some other cultures might believe different things.
Yes.
But how do you find that bit where you respect a culture and you respect someone's views at the same point?
We've got that big issue in Qatar at the moment.
Yes, that's a big one.
Do you want to go into that a little bit more?
Yeah. So they don't let anyone display any sort of homosexuality. Being homosexual there is illegal in prison. Like, I think it's life in prison.
Yeah.
And being overly like sexual in public, that's also illegal.
Yeah.
And that's completely foreign for a lot of fans going there for the World Cup, especially the UK fans and the American fans, a lot of just Western European countries. And it's a big question of whether we put our morals behind us to respect their culture, or we call them out on it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I feel like people are leaving places like that to migrate to America, England, such as like Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Loads of
Lots
people are
leaving
coming.
Hong Kong.
And one of the main reasons is freedom of speech.
Yeah, because in places like England and Hong Kong, they see a better future because America is classed as the freest country in the world.
I think that's self-proclaimed.
Oh, really?
Maybe. But I think we should go into more detail about that, actually. So, in the next episode,
we are going to be talking about the USA. This was our first episode on Series 2 of Freedom of Speech, and we just captioned England.
we did.
Hello, this is Zoe and Emmy's podcast. This is Season 2, Freedom of Speech, and our second episode is USA. So what we were literally
We're
just
with Sol again.
finishing, we're with Sol again, our lovely guest.
I'm back.
And what we were just talking about was how USA is called themselves.
Freest country.
That is it's an interesting
statement
yeah,
to
it's a big
make.
statement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of countries. Quite hard to get to the top, but we'll
Yeah,
see what
that's
happens.
true. So just to recap over what we said last time, freedom of speech is the right to express opinions without government restraint, which is apparently what America has and is the best at. Apparently. Because America has this law called the First Amendment, which came out in December 15th, 1791, which states that Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech, which guarantees they can say whatever they want. There's no censorship. They can say whatever they want, which is unlike England, where they couldn't discriminate against age and disability. America doesn't have that. They have complete free reign of anything they want.
And I think what was really interesting is I'm looking at this list right now, and the list that we were talking about in the previous episode for what was like illegal is very small for USA right now. There is 4 things on here.
What is it?
And it's obscene material such as child pornography, plagiarism or copyright material, defamation, and true threats.
So
and I think
it's
they're
the
all very
bare minimum,
important.
really, isn't it?
Yeah, the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And I think they don't have a clear line of what's... I think they have put the responsibility onto the public.
Yes, to make
They've
the
put
choices.
morally and illegal for them.
And a big thing about America is that...
Or socially illegal.
Yeah, they say because they're the freest country, they can say whatever they want. They could be homophobic and racist and they can't do anything about it. But if you look into it a bit more, if you say something or you threaten someone, then it will go to court.
Yes.
And it's the court's decision whether what you've done is wrong.
Yeah.
There is no law about it.
And I think the difference is as well is because the public make the choices socially, what's acceptable to say and what's not, the things that aren't socially acceptable to say that get said, more violence is put in towards that.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot more protests, a lot more street fights and stuff because violence is put towards it instead of the law, which is, I wouldn't say the opposite, but which is not as similar as what it is in England.
Yeah. I mean, freedom of speech is something that isn't censored much in America, but something that is censored a bit more, which is very similar to freedom of speech, is freedom of expression.
Yes.
Which is like freedom of speech, except you have a right to do things like protest, and if you want to...
It's arguably more important.
Yeah, if you want to glue yourself to a floor to show that you agree with something, then you have a right to do that.
It also goes with you can wear what you want.
Yeah, you can wear what you want.
Well, the definition is the power or right to express one's opinion without censorship, restraint, or legal penalty.
Yes. However, even though America claims that they have complete freedom of expression, it is illegal to burn down an American flag.
Yeah.
And it's illegal for students to protest if they go to a private school. Because
that's
the law
really
doesn't
interesting.
reach to them.
And I think the question is why?
Yeah.
Why does it not?
Yeah. It's a good question. Any takers on that question?
It's
mad. I read it and I was like, there's no way that's true. But
and we did a little bit more research, and it was true.
It stems from, there was, I don't know the exact date, but there was a group of students who wore black wristbands.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was to signify, but it was out of protest. And they said that was perfectly fine and that broke no laws, except if they were in a private school, in which case it would then go against their rules.
So it's saying that private school students can't protest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're in a private school.
And I think I'm going to put them in a category right now, which they can totally walk out that category if they want to. Private school people in USA is a little less common than it is in England. And I think most private school people from USA have got one or both parents in the government or in a high-ranking job.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason that they've been put, it's illegal to protest for them, right?
Yep.
Is because of what it shows
Yeah.
for the people in the higher class, that like their parents.
Could negatively affect the government.
Yes. And I think that's quite important because it's their views on it.
Yeah.
But then how does that work? Because they're all about human rights.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that balance with human rights?
Yeah. I mean, in freedom of expression, the two main things that I found that were illegal was causing imminent harm, which is something like shouting fire in a crowded room, causing like everyone to rush out and people to get trampled to death, which is fair.
Right.
And
Which has
So
happened.
murder.
yeah.
Right.
And students protesting in private schools. They were the two things that I found for freedom of expression, and to put them on the same like level.
Yeah.
It's-
That's crazy.
It's
I
not
want to
right.
know.
It's not on the same
I want to
level.
know who made that law.
Yeah.
Does it say when?
And
No,
you
it
know
doesn't
what?
say
I bet they're in a private. They went to a private school.
Probably. Yeah.
I bet you they went to a private school
Yeah.
because the thing
My
is,
kids went to a private school.
when
Yeah.
because when you are in a private school and you're not doing the protests, people who don't do the protests
Mhm.
are less likely to get arrested than people who do the protests, because you have seen multiple videos on like social media about people getting arrested just because they walked into a protest.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about the whole like, what do you look like to society,
Yeah.
and how does that make your family look?
Mhm.
And I think that is literally what's like underlying in the law.
Yeah. I mean, the American government and the Supreme Court, they believe, or at least they have said that they believe, that they have content neutral over all of the cases, and that they don't restrict or censor any group just because like one group finds it offensive. Which, based off of just the private school thing alone, let alone like cases that are very big that happened in America, is very hard to believe. Obviously, we don't live in America, we don't know their laws inside out, but from the research we've done, it doesn't seem as if they're doing what they're saying they're doing.
And they're not as free as I think they are.
No, they're not. I think the reason they claim they're so free is because they have freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and they have a right to petition the government. And their law isn't left-wing or right-wing. So they're claiming that if you really wanted to, you could use this law to oppose the government.
I think another reason for them thinking that they're the freest country is because the law of the First Amendment, what was it, 1760 something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
1791.
1791. I think at the time when the First Amendment came out, it for a long time at least, they would have definitely been the freest country.
Yeah.
I don't think countries that we would consider probably more free now, like the UK and Germany and the Scandinavian countries,
Yeah.
I don't think they were nearly as free.
No.
I wonder why they call themselves the freest country
Probably
in
because
the
they
world.
were so ahead of their time.
Yeah, but also
Huge.
it's like one of those things where like you're like, oh yeah, I'm this. You're really not.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like underlying. I feel like one of the freest countries in the world, we have no idea is because
Yeah.
they don't let it. Like they don't tell anyone.
They don't tell
Don't let it
everyone.
out. Yeah.
When a big thing for America was that they wanted people from other countries to come over to America, especially ages ago during like the gold rush and times.
For jobs.
They
for
wanted
slave
people
labor.
for
Yeah.
slave labour. So they were like, we're the freest country. If you come here, we'll have all these laws. And it's
Had to
just
have
kind of
the American
stuck.
dream as well.
Yeah, and
The
then
American
they
dream,
don't let
yeah.
you out.
The American dream is it's
dead.
not true.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. The American
I don't think
dream.
it ever was.
The subtitle is you go in, you don't come out. So
Yeah, exactly. And it's just kind of stuck. I mean, they claim that, you know how in American schools you have to, like, salute the flag and stuff at the start of the day and
Oh,
lessons
yeah.
and stuff. They claim that it's part of your freedom of expression that you don't have to do that.
I wonder how many people get detentions because of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, there's no
People
statistic on it.
Like just get excluded by friend groups for not doing that as well.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no
Just
statistic
like
on
not
it.
See, it's
necessarily
probably-
with, like, actual repercussions.
It's not
just
illegal, but
socially.
it's socially illegal.
It's
Just
morally,
unacceptable.
people just
Yeah.
frown on it, which is it's not against their freedom of speech, but you're basically cancelling someone over not supporting the country.
Come on.
If schools in the UK or Germany started doing...
If they made us sing the national anthem...
If we started having to sing to the Union Jack, there would be massive...
Yeah, no one would do
protest.
It. Yeah.
Especially in, like, Scotland and Wales.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%,
They
actually,
would
that's so
not
true.
They would
do
not
that.
want to do that.
Especially Northern Ireland.
Yeah. God.
Oh, yeah.
Northern Ireland trying to sing the national anthem.
to our flag.
To our flag.
Especially, yeah. I mean,
God.
we've got a king now. I don't know how I'm going to sing the national anthem with a king.
Yeah, there's, like... There's parts of every country that don't want to be part of that country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And America claims
originally weren't.
Yeah.
Like, America, they claim a lot of parts of, like, Texas and California, but if you go back 120 years, that was all Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think America is such a difficult topic for anything.
Yeah.
Literally anything.
Because it's so big. And
different states, different rules.
Different states, different laws.
It's a lot of people.
There is a lot of people.
Yeah.
320 million.
It's mad.
I think England fills up like 2 states, maybe
more
less.
than that.
Well,
no, I think it's less.
In terms of population, England is very dense, but in terms of size, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's about the
Population,
size
if you
of
spread
California.
it out a bit.
If we just go around a bit,
Population, we've got about just under 70 million.
Yeah. And it's a tiny country.
Yeah.
So, but I just thought it was really interesting how the laws between the two countries, they're both such, like, free countries, but they're still so different.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed
researching
it.
They're free for different reasons, yeah.
Yes, that was really interesting. That is our second episode on Series 2 Freedom of Speech, and that was USA. And we are with Zoe and Emmy, and we have our special guest, Sol. Thank you for listening.